What's up, guys? I'm Joe. Today I'm talking about the debut solo album from Liam Gallagher, As You Were. So Liam Gallagher has been around for quite some time, from the band Oasis, one of the bigger rock bands from the 90s era, and then also from his band BDI, which he formed afterwards. I've never been the hugest Oasis fan ever. Personally, I hate the song Wonderwall. The band has definitely grown on me over time. They have some really great music. But just that song, I just never liked it. I think it's because every acoustic guitar player ever plays it. So I've heard it so many times, I've heard so many bad renditions of it, that I just can't take it. But apart from that, I think they have some pretty great material. Definitely their first two records for me are standouts. They had a lot of Beatles sensibility, obviously a lot of influence coming from them, as far as like the lighter kind of songs go. But then they had a cool kind of grungy sound to them. Not grunge per se, not like Nirvana or Pearl Jam or stuff like that. But there was like a garage element to the guitars. It was noisy, it was swirling, and, angsty and like sort of in your face when they did decide to rock out. So this is Liam Gallagher's first solo album. Overall, I've been kind of back and forth on how I feel about this, because it is a good record. When I'm listening to it, it's quite enjoyable overall. Nothing really bad on here, but I just think my main issue with the album, as a whole, is that nothing really stands out to me that much. There's no big hit, there's no big epic signature track. There's no big statement from Liam as a solo artist. So what you're left with is a collection of songs that isn't bad by any means, but just doesn't really pack a punch overall. A lot of the rocker type songs on here feel quite restrained. Stuff like Wall of Glass and You Better Run, they just don't pack a punch to them. In interviews, I've seen Liam describing some of these songs as like real stompers, real in-your-face kind of songs. And I don't know if it's the production or, maybe it's too clean sounding, or I don't know. It just doesn't get in your face like a rock song necessarily would. So overall, these songs like this end up sounding just pretty run-of-the-mill. Nothing really special about them, no big statement going on. I don't really get like a good rock vibe until way late into the album. Track 8, I Get By. One of my favorites on here, just because it packs more of a punch. It's got more of a rock sort of grit to it, which I kind of would have expected from this album overall. Not to say that Liam should have come out with an Oasis album, but there are a lot of Oasis tendencies on here, and you especially see that in the ballad-type songs. So, I feel like the guitars should have packed a little bit more of a punch, a little more dissonance to them, a little more power to them, maybe. And the drums are kind of a problem for me on this album. They sound very overproduced. I don't know exactly what it is. It sounds almost like an electronic drum set, and I don't think that's the case, but I don't know. It just makes for a weird commercially vibe to it, and it ultimately strips away some of the power that these songs could have. I think Wall of Glass is a pretty good song. It's just lacking in its execution. As far as the ballad-type songs on here, which there are quite a lot of them, quite a lot of mid-paced or slower tempo songs, I really do like all the melodies on here. They're all very catchy songs. There's not really anything I would want to skip on this album, and that's kind of why I'm having such trouble with the rating, because it feels like a good album to me. It's just not a great album. For example, I'd say one of the standouts for me is For What It's Worth. It's very Oasis sounding. It kind of reminds me of Don't Look Back in Anger as far as the chord progression goes. It's got a great melody to it, great vocals from Liam, but it just sounds like a rehashed version of what Oasis had done, and just not done quite as well. Bold is another standout, but one, again, same kind of thing. Doesn't really go too far, as far as pushing any sort of boundaries with the song. Almost kind of psychedelic and dreamlike. I do like the use of strings on this song. And ultimately another great melody, but I just feel like they just don't stand out on their own. Like each of these songs has a nice melody to it that sounds good, but it's not one that sticks in your head really. And even if it does, it's not one that makes me say like, oh, this is a great song. They all just kind of get by. The song Chinatown provides a nice sort of change of pace here. Very minimal on the drums. You got a nice picking acoustic guitar. Very cool use of either strings or piano or keyboards. Very Beatles-esque, but then I also like how it gets really sort of dissonant and weird in the middle. Something that Liam maybe should have done more throughout the album. I just like when there's sort of a more change of pace. And I think a good example is the song When I'm in Need. It stays pretty standard throughout as far as like a sort of ballad-type song goes. Then gets into a nice little jam at the end there. The song kind of breathes a little bit, and it gets away from the standard sort of verse-chorus type thing that most of the songs do on here. Yeah, so really overall, definitely not a bad album, just not a great album for me. There's a lot of good songs on here. It's just that none of them really stick out for me. There's no like pinnacle song on this album. And so overall, I think I'll give this one a 3 out of 5. I know a lot of people seem to really like this album. Please feel free to explain to me why in the comments. So yeah, and don't forget to subscribe. Check out plenty of other reviews. There's more on the way. Plenty have gone up recently. And thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.